to make sure this hat looks all good. This is the iconic brand. My man Langston, who is family with the Falks, Kevin Falk, and you see Kevin Falk wearing this iconic brand stuff all the time. He is also related to Sage Ryan. So we're talking about a dude who's very, very, very connected with LSU, but his iconic brand is now reaching iconic status when you've got icons like Kevin Falk wearing this stuff, repping this stuff. And man, ever since he and I have been chopping it up and become friends, Langston with Iconic, it's been a privilege to be a friend with him, and his stuff is so cool. I love wearing this hat. Everywhere I go, people talk to me about this hat, ask me questions about this hat, ask me if I'm from Louisiana. Of course, I always say no, but of course, I'm a diehard LSU fan, and I try to go there as much as I possibly can. Whenever there's money, I'm there. Um, and so people always ask me, "Oh, Louisiana," but there's a lot of Louisiana people or diehard LSU fans randomly in Utah who are like, "Yeah, baby, go Tigers!" So it's a cool thing. I love wearing this hat anywhere I go. Thank you, Iconic. Thank you so much for representing LSU Odyssey and for allowing LSU Odyssey to represent us. Go to iconicbrand.com. Check out his amazing repertoire of stuff. Iconic. And remember, it's spelled like that. Iconic with the I. You'll find it. Um, sorry, we got that little off there. Camera off. You've got Garrett Nussmeier for the NFL draft tonight. Where he's gonna land, who knows? I think every person in Louisiana, though, is very interested to know where's New Orleans Saints ownership going to land here with this number one overall, number 8 overall pick in the first round. I think they're going to go for Mansour Lane. I really do. I think, you know, even though New Orleans Saints just traditionally never draft LSU players, like at all, they never draft Tigers. I think this time they will. Who knows? We'll see. Oh crap! Drunk Blake Baker just informed me that some account was some fake account. My God, how many fake? I was like, why would I was thinking, why the hell would we have one George McDonald coach who's spelled MacDonald, and then the regular right receiver coach is McDonald? I was thinking, but you know what? We also have Jalen Brown, George, Trey Brown. We have like 5 different guys, Brandon Brown, like 5 different Browns. We have like Jalen Ross, Jordan, this, like, I mean, like Jackson. I mean, there's so many different names that sound alike on this roster, on this staff. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, that's what it seems like we do. So we'll embrace the madness. God, drunk Blake Baker. Thank you, my man. Yeah, this account, George McDonald, fake loyal assistant to the receiver coach, LSU parody live. See, this is why shit, you can get had when you're in a hurry. I don't care who you are. This stuff is just ugh. But that's a good lesson to me to look just a little bit further, and you can see that it says fucking parody account right there on the thing. Weird. Anyway, so Mansour Lane, I think number 8 overall to the Saints would be a great pick. Who knows if they'll make that move, because they never draft LSU guys. But if they were to, they were smart enough to do that for once. Um, Mansour Lane obviously be the guy you go with. I also want to talk about in this show tonight the future of college football. And I think we're going to get into that real quick here before we get into the main meat of the show, which we're going to be looking at LSU's spring footage and stuff like that. With film, of course, by the Verdant Verdict, and some info on the ground from guys like Andre Champagne from Tiger Rag, one of my absolute good buddies that I met on the road when LSU were playing USC. Really started talking to him. We were next to each other in the press box and just can't say nothing but great stuff about that dude, and just really what a badass Andre Champagne is. Check out his work. I see his stuff is going viral nonstop from the practices. Love to see that for this kid. He is a hustler, works his ass off, so nothing but rooting for that kid to really pull it off and go somewhere big time with covering sports. But definitely check out his stuff, Andre Champagne. Definitely follow him on Twitter, on Instagram. Great follow. Who really stands out in spring for the Tigers? We're going to get into that, but first I want to talk about the future of college football, okay? Because you've heard a lot of voices speaking out against this madness where college football is not only talking about expansion, that they're going to expand. This is going to be an expansion tournament. But I love that Josh Pate and JD Pickell, guys who actually just love college football, were like, whoa, fuck that. They didn't say that, but they basically said that so much by saying, we're not down with this. Like, you are making this into just a money fest. How much money do you need? How much money does this entity require? And Josh Pate went on his show and just blasted him, and this is a type of guy that really needs to be speaking as loudly as possible for the fans for the future of college football that he can, because they actually somehow listen to Josh Pate sometimes. They understand how influential this guy is. And then you look at JD Pickell. I think that guy's got a great finger on the pulse. I've been watching him for years. Jake Crane from Crane and Company, the J Boy, who's now evolved into absolutely a juggernaut with Crane and Company. Loved that they left Daily Wire and joined On3. That was just a fantastic move for them, and just, I think, for the betterment of their show, for the future of their show. And it's just continuing to skyrocket for Crane and Company. But Jake Crane is another guy, I think, that David Cohn as well, I would say, that should have voices as far as the future of college football, rather than some politician in Washington, D.C. I mean, what the hell are we doing? What is our country doing here? We can't even have health care for military veterans. We could barely afford to pay our military families until some billionaire did it because of government shutdowns. We couldn't pay our airport security because our government shut down, because they couldn't cover, they had to keep covering up for pedophiles. They didn't want those Epstein files to be released. And so they kept doing government shutdown after government shutdown. And so these people, hardworking Americans, could not get paid, which actually shut the system down. And then instead they want to, let's expand college football. Let's get into this world here. Let's do that. Like, what in God's name is wrong with this government? What is wrong with these people? And thank God. I mean, I know a lot of fans gave Josh Pate a lot of shit for doing an interview with Trump, but thank God we have a voice like Josh Pate speaking out for the future of college football and saying, this is a circus. Not only that government entities are involved, that the NCAA is completely irrelevant. They can't do anything about the future or preservation of their product, of their projects. They can't do it. So they turn to the government for assistance in trying to figure out a way that they can not only expand this thing as much as they possibly can, but make a ton of money while doing it. It reminds me of the World Cup that's coming up here, that I'm so excited about this thing. But the closer we get to this World Cup, the taint and the stain and the stench of greed and just money over substance, money even over the health of the athletes with the extra games, the nonstop crazy logistical insanity that is afoot when you're talking about not only the players but then the fans traveling to follow these teams, and then the families of the players, like all this stuff, like this is it's an absolute literal fucking nightmare for everyone involved. And I hope the World Cup on the field will at least be a fantastic spectacle, but in the stands it's going to be a lot of corporate sponsor people, a lot of the the Coldplay concert couple who are caught cheating, those kind of people who are going to be there, rather than those people who are going to be banging those drums and making that atmosphere that you're used to. That's what could happen to college football, I'm afraid. You're going to price out the real fans. You're going to price out the real fans. You're going to make this a all money all the time enterprise, because once you started paying these players, these money people who don't like to give away a cent, don't even want a dime to leave their view. Think about how greedy they are for expansion right now, because they're like, my God, we let all this money go to this player and that player. We swore we would never pay these kids. Damn. Now we have to. How can we not only maybe not get out of this, but how can we make this an equal playing field for us? Well, make them play 17, maybe 18, maybe 19, maybe even 20 games a season, which is just insane. And that's what they're doing in the NFL, basically. And then make them do this insane schedule when you're talking about December and January, as far as the college football schedule, as far as recruiting, as far as portal. You could have a guy enter the portal 3 days before he starts for a team in a national title game. And the team, no, he's too good. Even though he's saying he's going to go to Florida State or where, he's going to start for Miami in this title game. Like you're going to have some crazy situation like that because of this absolutely screwed up calendar. And people like Josh Pate, J.D. Pickell, Jake Crane, and all of the Crane Company, his brother Blaine and David Cohn, all these really important voices. Ari and Andy from On3, those two as well, to a lesser degree, but there's one common theme. Everyone understands that this is unsustainable. The price of things is so out of control. The money demand from all sides is so out of control. This cannot be sustained. This cannot be, something has got to give here. And I'm worried what will get lost in that moment of give, and I don't want it to be regular people not being able to take their families to go see, the Tigers, like so many other generations before them easily could go do. Now it becomes impossible. I don't want to see that. That's horrifying to me. Going to see these concerts and trying to get these tickets, or being able to get these tickets and being like, geez, we spent a ton, like it's getting outrageous and something must be done. And rather than trying to legislate college football, expand college football, or figure out NIL. How about the politicians of our government, rather than serving corporate or foreign government interests, how about they serve the American people and stay out of the World Cup, stay out of college football, stay out of other countries, and just worry about America for once? I mean, I almost died in a car accident like 6 months ago because my car ran over a pothole in the middle of the freeway. There was no way to get around this thing, no way to get. You saw it the last second, but it was just small enough you couldn't see it, big enough you could see it the last second. Boom! Chewed my tire up. Luckily, no kids in the back, no Chelsea with me, just me. And I'm going like, shh, like barely, narrowly avoid an accident after the fact. Not only just from rolling the car from the immediate impact of it popping the tire going 70 plus miles an hour. Luckily, I slowed down to at least 40 something by the time it popped. But it was just so damn dangerous. And your roads everywhere are just made of shit like that. And this country is the priorities completely backwards and upside down. We have to figure it out. We have to fix it, or we're going to lose the soul of everything we care about, whether that's art, whether that's music, whether that's going to go see a great movie. Now it's made of AI bullshit, whether that's, your government lying to you about everything, whether that's college football. You want to just ignore politics. You want to ignore all this bullshit. You want to sit down on a Saturday and just watch 10 billion college football games, right? But no, now you have to pay $40 per game pay-per-view. Now you have to do, like, I mean, they could really monetize this even worse than they have already. And that's what scares me, is that as unfair and as out of control as it is right now, it could be so much worse. And I'm worried that it will get to that point. Really, if Donald Trump and his administration and Congress really want to get involved in college football, what they could do is do that. Cap all this bullshit, extreme expenditures, because it's not really helping the economy. It's going to universities and university institutions, and they're just raising these tuition fees to cover the NIL costs, and it's becoming an insanity. And so it's actually costing the regular average citizen because of the tuition going up, because of all this stuff. You've got to figure out some way to grasp all these things. Someone like Nick Saban, someone like George Sankey, someone like Josh Pate, someone like Jake Crane. Put them in a room, let them solve this. I think they absolutely could. But who really stands out in spring for LSU? Who's really stood out? Because we're done now. We're basically, this is the last viewing period. Today was the last viewing period for the media. They will still do one or two more practices. But who stands out for LSU throughout spring for you? I want to know your comments right now of who you think stood out for you in this spring. Whether you were there covering every moment of practice that you possibly could, or if you were stuck like an absolute loser at home for all of this action, like myself, or if you're just a regular LSU fan who doesn't have press access or any of that type of stuff, but you watch all the stuff that you can, and you're in the know about who's good or who's looking good, that type of stuff. I want to know your opinion. Put it in the comments. Who are you really looking forward to this season ahead from what you've seen based on their performances in spring? There we go. There's Lane getting some bars from Tusi. Hey, how do you rap and how do you do this? And trying to figure out the rapping game. Here's Houston Longstreet. Bullet the Blue Sky right there. 2-2C. Longstreet to Tyree Holloway. Landon Clark. Jace Brown. Nice throw, Jackson Harris. Okay, problem, everybody. Jackson Harris left the practice with an injury. That is from multiple sources. When I heard that information, I immediately saw someone else post about it. They beat us to it, and so I was like, okay, this is probably something multiple people saw. But he walked under his own power, but that doesn't reveal much. There's people who've torn their ACL and are walking around, you know, playing the rest of a game on a torn ACL. They just don't know it. That type of stuff happens a lot. Let's see here. But yeah, there's number 4, Jackson Harris, and he's been looking good all spring. You do not want an injury to him. And then look at that. Eugene Wilson is also wearing that gold jersey. So you've got like we warned about last show. You do not want this growing list of injuries, especially to gutty, gritty guys that this team needs. There's Jabari Mack making a fundamentally strong catch there, not screwing around, not dropping, making a good catch. Longstreet, who had a ridiculous scrimmage. There's Philip Wright, the third again, who just makes everything look easy all throughout spring. I hope he really gets a shot, man. Philip Wright right here. Once again, just to remind everyone, this is film from the Verdon Verdicts. Absolutely follow them. We're going to try and get them on the show. Try and get him on the show to talk about some of the stuff that he was looking at. We also reached out to Andre Champon to see if he would come on the show and talk about that as well. Philip Wright the third, I don't think is like a spring flash in the pan. I just don't. I think he's going to absolutely be somebody that is going to deliver for LSU when the season comes around. You see that a lot. You see that a lot. You see a lot of times where, oh, well, this guy's going to be good in spring, but there's no way in hell that guy's going to start or do anything for LSU coming up this season. That guy's, this is just a kind of a spring sensation moment, a spring, a little glimmer in spring, and then he'll fade away. But I don't think so, man, because Philip Wright I think he's been, I'm just going to say it, what I said to Philip Wright the third in private. I said, man, I think you've been the most consistent receiver for LSU throughout spring. I just think so. I think that's obvious. And whether it's one-handed catches or just burning people over the middle, never really seeming to drop the ball, make any problems for running really crisp routes. He seems to really work in this fast-paced setup. Man, Philip Wright, I just think he's somebody that great evaluation from Lane Kiffin and company to make sure they kept that guy. Malik Elzy. Winnie Watkins also wearing gold. He picked up some type of a little niggling injury or something. some type of nagging injury after. Ooh, nice by Jace Brown. Nice location. Ooh, that's sick. Oh yeah, baby. See, this one for once is an incompletion to Philip Wright, but this is not on him. That's way behind him. That's a bad pass. That's a bad pass by Longstreet. Landon Clark. Nice bullet there. There's Jackson Harris again on a slant. Does he get hurt there? Does kind of pull up for a second. Maybe that's a hamstring or something. I don't see it. We'll see. And Clark again. Guys, we have so many weapons at receiver. It's ridiculous. Like, if we don't have a good receiving core this season, if we don't have a productive receiving core this season with all of these weapons, someone needs to get fired because that would be a criminal act. There's so much size, length, speed, every type of profile you could want. There we go. Hell yeah. What a catch by Jackson Harris. Okay. I've started calling Roman Mothershed the mothership. Just such a huge, huge, huge dude. Philip Wright the third, once again, he just catches everything. There are so many weapons in this receiving core. St. Jude, huh? I've never looked into them if they're actually a good hospital or if they just are like a fake. From what I've heard, they did really good stuff. So I'm inclined to believe that their donations go to a good place because I've heard that they did great work for people. So that's what I'm inclined to believe. Um, Not seeing any Jackson Harris injury just yet. Just Jabari Mack once again. He looks massive. Eugene Wilson. So you got these burners, these speedy guys, Eugene Wilson, Jace Brown, Winnie Watkins. And then you've got these lengthy guys like Malik Elzy, and then of course Trey'Dez Green, who has 11 red zone touchdowns in his LSU career already. 11 total, and all 11 came inside the red zone. You have length and strength, dynamism, and what's interesting is we haven't even seen guys like Trey Brown really pop. But a guy like Jackson Harris, that guy's going to probably start for you as long as he stays injury free. We'll see what his injury is. Um, Probably something small, and he'll probably be fine. But still, you never know. I haven't heard anything yet, but there's so many weapons on this receiving core that pack a punch, man, that make plays. Like if this receiving core can't deliver, I don't care if it's year one. You really failed in that capacity if that's what happens, because there's so many weapons. You have the offense, you have the right offense to make this work, to make this happen. You've got so many willing participants of greatness. You've got the quarterback in Sam Levitt. You even got a couple backup arms that could make it work in Houston Longstreet or Landon Clark. Maybe they're not going to win you a national championship, but they'll at least make things work. They could buy you time to get Levitt back from injury for a game or two, especially with a damn good defense like it looks like we've got. But man, this receiving core has got to be a part of what this offense produces because there's so much explosion here. But, that leads us perfectly into where I wanted to go next. Kevin Smith's rushing room, guys. LSU hasn't been able to rush the ball really at all in the post 2019 era. Abysmal rushing in the 2019 era. I'm sorry, in the 2019 era. In the post 2019 era. Only one 1,000-yard rusher since Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2019. Can you name him? Name him in the comment section if you can name him. But we really want to see who can figure that one out. We'll say the question again. Who was the only LSU Tiger to hit 1,000 yards since 2019? Oh wait, okay, 1,000 yards rushing. So if people just pop onto this watching the draft or pre-game or something. So who was the only LSU Tiger to hit 1,000 yards rushing since 2019? Here's a hint. LSU Odyssey interviewed him multiple times. LSU Odyssey had a very good. He's probably one of the first. I think he was the first LSU Tiger we ever interviewed. I think he's the first LSU Tiger that ever responded to a text of ours. I think his family, his mom Stacy, was the first to really befriend us from the LSU Tiger parent families, parents in the families of these Tigers. And so that's a big hint right there. I'll say no more, but who is the only LSU Tiger to hit 1,000 yards rushing since 2019? There's only one of them. So LSU, who used to be a running back factory, has only had 1,000-yard rusher. Just 1,000-yard rusher since 2019. Since Clyde Edwards-Helaire did it, led the SEC in rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. Was just unstoppable that season. Did it as a receiver out of the backfield as well. So there was only one since then. LSU, of course, had a rushing quarterback hit over 1,000 yards. But we're not counting that. We're talking about running backs rushing the football. And when you're talking about updates and all that type of stuff, Dylan Jones being someone who could start for you while you also have Caden Durham. There's Dylan Jones right there who ran that drill, number 13. Former Wisconsin back. If he could start for you, be that Thunder Lightning package, while you also still have Caden Durham and Harlem Berry in behind. Stacey Gage, who had 3 rushes for 55 yards in the last scrimmage. Big high-impact plays. Racine Guillory Jr., who's had a few moments here and there in certain practices. Guys, this is a potentially strong running back room. I wouldn't say this is a better running back room than 2019, or a running back room that's going to equal 2019, or a running back room that's even going to come close to 2019. Because you know what? I don't know how anyone could, because LSU, we talk about LSU's 2019 receiving core, right? As we should. Joe Burrow tossed 60 touchdowns that year. But you know what? LSU's rushing attack in 2019 was equally as awesome. Not only were the play calling, sorry, not stupid ads. Not only was the play calling almost completely equal for rushes to passing attempts. There were a ton of rushing touchdowns that season. A ridiculous amount of rushing touchdowns that season. Let's get that up here. You had at least 17 rushing touchdowns. Without looking, I'm just going to guess it right now. You at least had 17 from Clyde rushing. You at least had 6 by Ty Davis Price. You had 4 from John Emery Jr. I think you had 1 from Fournette in the Georgia Southern game. And then you had. Should we count? No, let's just count the running backs. I was toying with maybe counting Burrow, but okay. Rushing touchdowns. 16 by Clyde Edwards-Helaire. SEC leading 16. And then as I knew this stat by heart because Ty was awesome. 6 touchdowns, including one against Oklahoma, trucking some defenders against Oklahoma as well, just leveling people. John Emery Jr. had 4, also scored against Oklahoma. Leonard Fournette had 1. So you had 22, 26, 27 rushing touchdowns. And then if you add in Burrows, you had 32 rushing touchdowns in 2019. That's outrageous. So LSU, I mean, my God, you threw for 61 touchdowns and then rushed for 32. That's such a standard and such a deep running back room. This rushing attack will probably be nowhere near that level, but it doesn't have to be. With a defense this damn good with Blake Baker, all they have to do is produce. Just give us chunks of yardage. Get no negative plays. Keep it positive 3 yards, 4 yards at a time. Help Sam Leavitt wear down defenses. Help our offensive line take a breath and be able to kind of go, okay, we're starting to work this opponent. We're starting to really drive this shit home. We're starting to really take this thing over, take this to their face. Steal the face right off your head. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about an LSU rushing attack. And when you're looking at what Sam Leavitt can also add to this rushing attack, man, you have something that could be really devastating for defenses to deal with. Our receiving core over the middle, our receiving core with the deep shots down the field, our receiving core in the red zone with a guy like Trey'Dez Green. So many profiles covered: speed, size, strength, power, possession, finishing down in the red zone. Everything is covered really with this receiving core. Any type of mixture, flavor that you need, it's about utilizing it and maximizing it correctly, which I believe Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin and Joe Cox and George McDonald, the receivers coach, can all collaborate and make happen once again, like they did at Ole Miss. For certain, they did that for a guy like Trey Harris, Louisiana native. They did that for a few other guys. Winnie Watkins was starting to become really good. But they really need to be able to take that to the next level here at LSU, because there's such a strikingly upgraded level of talent. Some of the guys They recruited out of the portal. Some of the guys they brought from Ole Miss, like Winnie Watkins. But there's also guys like Jabari Mack or Philip Wright III who stayed, who are returned, Trey Green, who can kind of have that Louisiana flavor. I'm so, I see so many possibilities rushing the football, passing the football, and then the dual threat nature of Sam Levitt in this offense. It could be so explosive, guys, because you really are working the defense one side of the field to the next. The speed of the play calling, the speed of like how fast we're running the plays. I mean, I could probably look it up right now, but I venture to guess that the last however many times LSU played Ole Miss, the snap counts were high. 87 defensive snaps for Mansour Delane last year. As a starter, played every snap against Ole Miss. Unreal. And that's a typical thing. Let's go through it. I guarantee you we could find where. So if we're doing that, 87 snaps this last season. Wow, 87 snaps the year previously was the game high as well. So back-to-back games of 87 snaps. Whit Weeks, 87 snaps. Zy Alexander, 87 snaps. Ashton Stamps, 87 snaps. Sage Ryan, 86. Jordan Gilbert, 85. Good Lord. Guys. And then Ole Miss in 2023. That was another one where the snap count had to be high, right? 94. 94 snaps for Major Burns, 93 by Andre Sam, 91 by Greg Penn III, 89 by Sage Ryan, 80 by Makai Wingo. Oh my God, guys. 94 snaps. You played 94 snaps out there. Oh my God. So you have back-to-back games of 87 snaps. 87 plus 87 plus 94. You have the last 3 games against Lane Kiffin offenses by LSU's defense. I mean, do you even want to see this number? Do you even want to know what 268 snaps. 268 defensive snaps against Lane Kiffin offenses in the last 3 years by LSU defenses. No fewer than 87 total snaps in all 3 games. That is insane. That is insane. And guess what? That's what we are going to now do to opponents. That's what we're going to be able to do now to opponents. 79 snaps in 2022 against Lane Kiffin offenses. So still high. You had a better defensive effort. You actually had a hell of a second half comeback, if I remember correctly, against Ole Miss in 2022. But still a ton of defensive snaps. And then 79 again in 2021. Like, holy shit, guys. Kiffin is like, and it didn't matter if our offenses were even good that year. Like, They racked up 77 snaps in 2020. No fewer than 77 snaps in all those games against Kiffin's offenses at Ole Miss. 268 snaps over the last 3 years. And now you look at what LSU's offense can do this season with that type of formula, with that type of quarterback, this type of running back room, that unbelievable stacked receiving core that I think is just outrageous. Trades Green as the cherry on top. Tight end. Is he a tight end? Is he a pass catcher? Look at that. I just was talking about this, waxing lyrical about this, and then Roman Mothershed does something like that. And they're doing it all spring, guys. If it's not one guy, it's the other. You have an offense that should generate points, should wear down defenses, should absolutely make big time explosive plays, should control the game, help the defense out, because we're going to have a damn good defense this year. As long as injuries don't prevent that, this defense is going to be elite. This offense has their own potential and possibilities that could go beyond the word juggernaut. That is how good they are. And that is how damn good the defense is that's helping them on the other side of the ball. Smart coaches. And it's bleeding into smarter players at LSU. You're starting to see better, smarter players. Last year, there was a lot of smart, unselfish defensive playmaking where guys wouldn't just overrun a play. They would understand it's okay. I'm gonna have to only get a piece of this guy, but I'm gonna slow him down so this guy can help me. I'm gonna drive him into this corner instead of trying to make the solo play. There's a lot of that type of stuff. So your defense is full of guys who are experienced, who are going to deliver those fundamentals and going to take that next step. Like Pickett, how could he not take the next step? Only if he gets jaded, if he has injuries, crazy things like that just aren't really a part of who he is as a person. Severe, nasty things would have to go against him and this team for that to happen. And then you're loaded depth-wise at some of these spots in the secondary, especially safety, where you've got 3 really elite options at safety. And you might end up playing Spears at star because of that. I think this team is going way under the radar, and I love it because I think Kiffin is silently, quietly building something that could absolutely dominate and take over. There is no Nick Saban anymore. Kirby Smart won his back-to-back titles, and since then, Georgia has faded. I mean, what am I saying? They're still in the hunt every single year, but they have kind of faded. Ole Miss was on the rise and on a huge trajectory, major push since their semifinal run, but then Kiffin booted off the staff because he was going to go to LSU. They're like, no, we're not going to let you try and win a championship for us. See ya. He goes to LSU. They put Pete Golding in there. He wins back-to-back games, CFP games. However, I think Ole Miss are about to run into a buzzsaw that they're about to find out this guy actually isn't that good. There's a huge gap here that LSU can fill. Like, there's a major gap here for LSU to actually fill. and be the real team that can go take the SEC by the scruff of the neck, because the last few years we've seen a lot of cannibalism. We've seen a lot of Alabama's in the ascendancy, and then they look so tepid and get destroyed by someone else because they beat the living shit out of LSU, that's for sure, under Kalen DeBoer. Texas A&M, they're on the rise. A&M, oh my God, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Their first, SEC title game appearance, right? For sure, of course. Their first, and then no, kapoop, and then they get absolutely upset and dusted by Miami. I think it was in the CFP in like a gross, low-scoring, awful game. There's a major gap that is just needs to be filled. And LSU have all of the talent, all of the type of personnel, the staff to make this happen. You got Blake Baker as your defensive coordinator, for God's sake. You still have another season of Whit Weeks. You still have 2 more seasons of DJ Pickett. You got PJ Woodland balling out like he's Christian Fulton, a chip on his shoulder. He's been tested. He's been targeted. He's been through the fire. And now he's ready for something, take that next step for greatness. You got Davon Keys, who's second in the SEC in tackles, led the team in tackles last year. And you're thinking of him or TJ Daugherty, who's led the SEC in tackles. One of those guys might be your backup. I mean, are you serious? That's a lot of wealth there at linebacker, just in the top 3 positions. You still have Tamarcus Cooley coming back for another season, but not only that, you got, when AJ Halsey left, oh shit, there's going to be a major, problem at safety. Oh, well, you got Deshaun Spears. Well, you also got Ty Benefield, who could be the best safety in the country. And he's definitely going to be a starter. So you're probably going to be having Spears play star. So you're talking about an exceptional defense where you got Prince Will, Umamalian, who was an Excalibur pass rusher this last season for Ole Miss. 9.5 sacks, 14 TFLs, unceasing, just relentless charging at the quarterback, just brilliance. What he could do in the contain as well. LSU have so many personnel advantages. Jordan Ross is rising big time as that other starting defensive end, that guy who's going to counteract and counterbalance what Prince Will Umamalian did, which is basically just attack the quarterback, just go. But for me, and also, Whit Weeks participating for the first time fully in a spring practice, that was a big deal. It was great to get him back too, but guys who really have stood out for me in spring, Winnie Watkins for sure. He's pictured right there with Kiffin on the screen wearing the number 6. He had a ridiculous 164 yards, 10 catches, and a 95-yard touchdown in last Saturday's scrimmage. He is an extremely consistent receiver for LSU all throughout spring. All throughout spring, he has been extremely consistent for the Tigers. And when he came in on the roster, oh, well, he had a freshman year. He only had 295 something yards, only a couple touchdowns. Probably not going to actually know. It looks like that's going to be your starting slot guy at least. I would venture to say that's who it's going to be, because he is a problem. He is going to be a problem. He's so damn good. And I just love everything I have seen from him as a player so far. Has just been explosive. Has been almost violent in the way he runs the football after the catch. He becomes a heat-seeking missile. And brother, sister, I am here for it. I am all in. I am all aboard that train of just complete demolition, complete annihilation. Feed these guys the football over the middle and then let them cook after the catch. Like, that is such a simple secret sauce that I don't know why Joe Sloan never called those plays. The rare times that he did, it's very interesting. Aaron Anderson went for that 87-yard touchdown against A&M. Like, it's ridiculous how they would not understand their personnel. These guys do. Next on the list for me has to be Dylan Jones. Dylan Jones, former Wisconsin running back who has just been beastly, guys. And like I said it just a minute ago, if he's your starter, if that dude's your starter, and then behind him you have Harlem Berry and Caden Durham, Racine Guillory Jr., Stacy Gage, we're talking about a really strong, loaded running back room. Very impressive running back room. Now, someone you won't expect, Weston Davis, is going to be on this list. How could he not be? This guy shouldn't have even been at LSU. This guy should have been in the portal, been somewhere else. But no, this guy was all in, and they were all in with him. And it was shocking to see that not only did he maintain that starting spot, but he has solidified it throughout spring. Like, not only was it surprising that they kept him and wanted him around, but then he solidified the spot. This is one of the most maligned, most destroyed Tigers I've seen in some time. And yet he brought it and was absolutely delivering all throughout spring. Major standout to me, because who expected this? That Weston Davis would be your starting right tackle again this season with a new coach, new offensive line coach as well. Almost every offensive lineman gone outside of him and Braylon Moore and Solomon Thomas. Just major O-line exodus. He's one of the few who stays. Just incredible. Incredible story so far. And we'll see how long it continues. But, I mean, so far it's been brilliant. Jordan Seaton, guys. LSU have a great left tackle, a top 10 pick for, left tackle once again. Jordan Seaton has that leadership, that knack for just being a great wall of China. Just Gandalf, you shall not pass. He has that type of he is a mammoth creature, a towering inferno. And what's interesting is when you watch him play, when you watch him practice, the way he moves those feet is ballerina, Gregory Hines tap dancing routine-esque. It's crazy. It's effortless, at least how it looks. It's wacky how it looks, but it is mechanically just so purely brilliant, with a little touch of unorthodox kind of a nature to what he does mechanically. That's all Jordan Seaton, all his fingerprints. Something he's ingrained by habit, where he almost allows you to think that he is going to be the tall man in the totem pole, and he's going to allow you to get low. But then he ducks yeah, under with his arms, and then he plants a back foot and just absolutely levels these guys right when they get low. And it forces them right up high, and then right when he's knocked them off balance and they're low, I mean, sorry, when he knocks them from being low off balance and they're a little bit high now, he drops lower and then just starts just leveling them, starts moving them where he wants. I was absolutely stunned watching his film. It was brilliant, guys. We have to keep him healthy. Wrap him in cotton wool all throughout this summer. Limit his traveling throughout the summer. You got to keep this guy safe. And what's great about him, he's a workaholic. I don't think he's even gonna want to go back home. I think he's gonna like, hey mom, you come here. Like you come to Baton Rouge because he's just wanting to work. This dude just wants to grind out there. And he wants to go be a top 10 pick. And he damn well knows at LSU, this is a place I can do that, guys. This is a place I can do it. Now, another guy on our list, Jordan Ross, defensive end. He has risen from he was all the way down on the third team at some practices, second team, whatever. Now he's like cemented as that first team starting defensive end on the opposite flank of Prince Will. And the former Tennessee defensive end, I love what he's brought to the table. When we signed him in the portal, I was extremely excited because he's a player I had seen a few plays of throughout last fall. I don't watch much Tennessee football, but I saw him making a few plays in a game. I was watching a Tennessee game. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe Tennessee, Georgia. And he's making these plays, and they're Jordan Ross, Jordan Ross. And I'm like, that guy's damn good. Remembered his name, saw a highlight reel of him when the portal first kind of opened. And they were saying this guy's going to announce that he's entering the portal. And I'm like, we need guys like this, dude. We need dudes like this. Oh my God. LSU, no brainer. Go sign this guy. Bam. 3 or 4 days later, I think it was Shea Dixon who broke the news that Jordan Ross was going to be a Tiger. And, he comes on campus, and some people thought, well, we've got Gabe Relaford, we got this guy, and so he's not really going to be a starter. Well, you lose Gabe Relaford to a season-ending injury after only 2 days, right? Throws a complete wrench in that situation. That's the kid's second straight season-ending injury. Horrifying. And now it gives an opportunity to other Tigers to have to step up. And Jordan Ross, ahead of Jaylen Brown, has taken that opportunity with both hands on the reins, and he is riding that horse, riding that wave, and he's looking dominant right now, guys. He's had a few really impressive touch sacks going around, these blocking schemes that are devised to get him off balance, to really smack him in the mouth. Some really aggressive offensive line pulling and blocking schemes from James Craig and Eric Walford, and really some aggressive ones that I haven't really seen LSU offenses run in a long time, outside of maybe a play here or there, where they're really just knocking the defense right in the mouth, trying to destabilize and catch the defense off guard. And you're seeing this type of stuff, and Jordan Ross is riding it, taking the punches and fighting through all of it to make plays. And yes, there's no tackling just yet. There's only touch sacks right now. So how good is he really? Well, you've got to factor those things in and say, oh, would the quarterback have been able to get away? Well, if one guy's running half speed out there, and the drill is basically kind of half speed to begin, it's not really going to be an accurate representation of what's going on. So we will know way more about this at the dawning of fall camp. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more about how good or ready Jordan Ross is. We will know way more Jordan Ross is to start for LSU this season. And from what I've seen, I think he's ready right now. I think he's ready right now, guys. He's looked incredible. Now, I would like to just say the entire LSU receiving core as well on top of that. Like the entire LSU receiving core has been just outrageous. From Jackson Harris, someone who really, I think is a very interesting prospect to a Trades Green, Winnie Watkins, Eugene Trey Wilson, Jace Brown, of course, as you all know, number one, who is another speedy burner. You know, you've got so much possibility. You've got so many weapons to call upon. You've got such an arsenal. I just see a lot of options here for LSU's offense, and once again, I'm going to say it because I hate to say this, but we've seen this for years at LSU where high expectations, high levels of talent, highly paid coaches, everything seeming to align only for things to really blow up in our face with expectations being dashed and things like that. I just gotta say, this is the ultimate of all of those. Kiffin he simply must be successful with what he's been given. What $40+ million roster, almost $200 million total project here, probably more as far as the staff and everything else. Kiffin has to deliver with all of these weapons, all of these brilliant personnel, and you know what? I think he's going to, because I don't think there's any way you could screw this up. I don't think there's any way you can fail with the personnel here. I'm not saying he must win a national championship year one, or he's screwed, or he's not worth a damn. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply trying to say that if LSU does not compete for college football playoff going on a deep run, if LSU does not really make a good run of things this season, if LSU does not maximize their talents without there being considerable, serious, and significant widespread injury issues, there's no excuses. There's zero excuses. This is the deepest and I think most talented LSU squad all around that LSU has had in the post 2019 era. And I mean, we should have won a championship in 2023 with a completely incomplete team. That would look really weird on paper, but we'll say it. Sometimes I'm in my head, I say it in my head, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right, but just say it anyway because that kind of sounds funny. But really, the most incomplete team in the world in 2023 still could have won a national championship, still should have won a national championship that season in 2023. And you couldn't. You didn't. So just think of the possibilities ahead and what this should turn into, what this should look like going forward. Dare to dream. Dare to dream. Because guys, gals, tigers of all kinds, this looks to be a really deep roster, a strong roster with a lot of bases covered here. This looks to be an elite level of staff. They've got to go out and prove it. They got to gel together, come together, become the team they should be, and go out and deliver victories. That's what it's all about. Frankly, sadly, no one will be able to see every hour of work that they pour into it. And so the wins will The wins are the only thing that can speak to that. The wins or the losses are the only thing that can speak to that. That's the sad, disgusting nature of football and sports and some of these things where there has to be a winner or a loser, and that's that. But that's why we love this game. The high stakes of it all. And I tell you what, when LSU aren't talked about, when LSU aren't in the frontal cortex of everyone's every thought, that's when LSU is at its best and its most dangerous. And this season, I feel like it's one of those. Paul Tarver says credit Kiffin and company evaluation team for jumping on Jordan Ross may prove to be one of the two best defensive portal gets. I mean, you do have Prince Will, and then you do have Ty Benefield. I mean, you've got TJ Daugherty as well, so he could be like 4 or 5 on that list and still be like a major get for LSU. So like he doesn't even have to be top 2, and I don't think he will be. It's hard for me to see him, you know, racking up 10 sacks this season. I could see 5 or 6 maybe. But you watch his tape like you have, Paul, and there's a reason you're saying that he would be that high, 1 or 2. Maybe I think he would be more like 4, 5 or something like that with like a guy like TJ Daugherty also on that level as well. But you're saying 1 or 2, and I think there's an obvious reason you're saying 1 or 2 because he absolutely could be. He could be the guy who has more sacks than Prince Will when all is said and done. Everyone's expecting Prince Will to have all the sacks. It could be Jordan Ross. That is how talented and how disruptive and how penetrative and how physical, violent, just a battering ram, a Cuban missile crisis that has turned into a human missile crisis. That's Jordan Ross, man. And so there's a reason you said that, Paul. And it's because you know who you're dealing with. You know who LSU has on their hands here, and he's a hell of a talent, man. So we're gonna do this we're gonna continue these kind of thoughts and kind of these questions in the next show and in the next articles. Look out for what we're going to be writing tonight. I think you're going to be interested in the news and in some of the information we have coming for you. I think you're going to be very interested. Look out for that tonight on LSUOdyssey.com. Enjoy the draft, everybody. I think we're going to have another first round pick LSU Tiger in Mansour Lane, hopefully to the Saints for all of you. And hopefully Mansour Lane to the Saints. And hopefully Garrett Nussmeier gets drafted somewhere cool. If Garrett Nussmeier got drafted 8th overall, I would be over the moon for the kid because, I mean, he'd be playing for his dad. I hope Nussmeier gets drafted in that first round. I am all the way Team Nuss. I don't see it, but I'm desperate for him to get drafted in that first round because I think he's a lot better quarterback than a lot of the other guys on that big board. There's a lot of guys on the big board. People are like, yeah, I'm higher on him than Nuss. Yeah, but that's because Nuss was hurt in 2025. You could say the same thing if, say, Sam Levitt played all of last year through that Liz Frank injury. Yeah, he'd be nowhere near the quarterback that you think he's going to be coming into LSU. You would go, what the heck are we doing? It's like, yeah, it turns out playing through a severe injury like that, a spinal cyst that affects your abdomen so bad that they said it was an abdominal injury. And that was what I reported first, was that is an abdominal injury before Kelly and company even put that information out there. We were reporting that because that's what we were told. And so it's clear that medical team, all these people, they missed it because it wasn't the abdominal injury, but it was a spinal cyst. So, everybody enjoy the draft. We'll be talking very, very soon. Absolutely love talking with y'all. We're gonna end this with some comments from Paul Tarver. Paul Tarver says, just want this 2026 campaign to finish games strong, win leading, or close in the second half. Paul Tarver says, Rams would be a great landing spot for Nuss. That has been widely talked about, that Sean McVay could absolutely draft him. And, he's under God, how am I forgetting that guy's name? Matthew Stafford for a year, and then takes over that role. I could absolutely see that. I could absolutely see that. But wherever he goes, I just hope it's somewhere he can be taken care of and protected and maximized to the best of his abilities. And I think St. Louis. I think LA Rams would be a great place for him to go. I don't think he'd like living in LA too much, but hey, who knows? He would be close to Jack Besh. Only Jack Besh would be there in Vegas, so I would love it. I'd love for him to be out west. That'd be fantastic. Paul, everyone watching, Louis Corona, who I know will be watching this soon enough, Jamer, CBD, Marks Gibson. God, there's so many of you. Go Girl. There's so many of these amazing people who are just unbelievable LSU Tiger diehards who have given LSU Odyssey somehow their support and their backing. I mean, just we feel grateful. We feel honored to be like able to do this stuff for you guys. We know you have so many different options. Let us be the weirdest one that you select. Let us be the most entertaining one you select. Let us be the one that informs you about things that the other ones either don't have the information on, have the information but just won't tell you about it, and all those type of things. This is the place where you can find out that stuff. Like last year, nowhere else would they tell you that Garrett Nussmeier was hurt except for LSUOdyssey.com. And that is a fact. That is a stone cold fact. And everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and enjoy the draft. We'll be talking to you very, very soon. In fact, we will have an article out by tomorrow morning that I think you will be very interested to check out. So everybody, head over there, LSUOdyssey.com, subscribe, hit the like, hit the share button, get this thing going, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, subscribe on our Instagram, especially if you're watching this on Instagram Live, which we are doing this live. We got Christopher Gosson from Lafayette in the house. My man, Chris. Thank you for watching, Chris. Absolutely love that guy. That is a St. Thomas More legend, Christopher Gosson. Everybody, thank you so much. There's an Ozempic ad on our goddamn show. Wild. Wild. We didn't mean for that to happen. What is going on?